Hi, everyone out in Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. It's your Congressman, Jamie Raskin, dialing into you on today. I guess it's Friday, August 19th, for my favorite time of the week when we recognize those local heroes that make life and society vibrant and strong here in Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. So today, because of the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act with important reductions in prices on prescription drugs and important improvements in the healthcare system, I wanted to recognize the local hero in Maryland who's been fighting harder than anybody for longer than anybody I know to promote the public health, to reduce the cost of healthcare for people, and to make sure that everybody gets covered. And that's the great Vinny DeMarco, who's the president of the Maryland Citizens Health Initiative, a great champion of the public interest against smoking, for the Affordable Care Act, and for making sure that all of our people are in dynamic, close relationship with doctors, primary care doctors, and the health attention they need, both physical health and mental health. And so for everything you've done, Vinny DeMarco, I wanted to denominate you our local hero this week and to salute you, congratulate you, and also ask you to reflect on the significance of this moment and how Maryland will interact with the adoption of the new legislation.
Well, thank you very, very much, Congressman Raskin. First of all, I want to say I was so upset when you left the state Senate. You were just one of our best leaders on gun violence prevention, public health, and I just couldn't believe it that you left us, but I'm so glad you did, because you have become one of the top national leaders in so much on public health, on protecting our democracy, and I am in awe of you. So when you asked me to be here and be honored by you as a local hero, I couldn't be more happy and more thrilled. So thank you. And thank you and the Maryland congressional delegation, except one, who supported the Inflation Reduction Act. I believe it is one of the most important laws passed by the United States Congress since the 60s. It is so important. And my son, Jamie DeMarco, worked very hard on the climate piece of that. And it is the most important climate legislation ever enacted in America, maybe the world, and will do so much to reduce emissions. I'm not an expert on that, but I thank you so much for doing that. On the healthcare piece, we are just so thrilled by what you did. Congressman Raskin, you and Congress and President Biden and Vice President Harris, the first leaders in America to stand up to big pharma and defeat them. It is incredible that Medicare has never been allowed before now to negotiate with the drug companies. And as a result, they have gouged our government and people on Medicare. And now they won't be able to do that anymore. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is wonderful. And the $2,000 cap on what people on Medicare can pay will help so many people. A person told us that they spend like $30,000 a year on out-of-pocket costs for their drugs. This will be a lifesaver. And on the Affordable Care Act, continuing those subsidies, which you passed first in 2021, which have so many more people get the health care they need. In Maryland, we are looking to build on these successes. We are thankful for them. We celebrate them, but we're not resting on these laurels with you. We want to build on them. In 2019, we in Maryland enacted the first ever prescription drug affordability board, the first in the nation, more affordable for Marylanders. And other states are following our lead, like Colorado and Oregon. But what you have done in Congress will give this board some very, very, very important guidance. Medicare will now say, okay, drug corporations, I'm throwing these numbers out. You want to charge us $100,000 this drug? Well, we're not going to pay any more than $20,000, some number, and we'll negotiate that and come up with some number that we'll pay. When you come up with that, when Medicare comes up with that, that could be guidance for the Prescription Drug Affordability Board in Maryland and elsewhere to expand that beyond Medicare. What you did applies just to Medicare, but the guidance you give, you meaning the federal government through Medicare, can show our Prescription Drug Affordability Board what to put as the upper payment limit that all Marylanders will pay for high-cost drugs. So that's how we are going to build on the Inflation Reduction Act on prescription drugs. On healthcare coverage, we are just so thrilled that the subsidies that President Biden and Vice President Harris and you all got through in 2021 are being continued, as well as the other ways that the Affordable Care Act is made more affordable for people. Over the whole country, 1.3 million additional people got health care since those subsidies were in place, and now they're going to stay in place for at least another 3 years. That gives us the opportunity to build on that. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, we've reduced the uninsured rate in Maryland from 13% to 6%, one of the lowest in the country, but we want to go to zero. And we have a plan to do that by automatically enrolling people who are eligible, additional subsidies, addition what you have, and we want to get rid of the immigration barriers in Maryland. Now, we couldn't do these things if you hadn't passed the Inflation Reduction Act, because the subsidies you are continuing allow us to build on that. So let me just say thank you, United States Congress, President Biden, Vice President Harris, for doing the Inflation Reduction Act. And we pledge in Maryland to go above and beyond that to achieve the goal of quality, affordable health care for all people.
Well, thank you for that tremendous overview of the progress we're in the middle of making now. The linchpin of it really has been to strike down that prevention of the federal government from negotiating for lower prescription drug prices with big pharma, because that opens up so much more money in general in the system, and it allows for people to pay a lot less. We're limiting to $2,000 a year what any person can pay out of pocket in the Medicare program for prescription drugs, and then $35 a month for diabetics, which is a very big deal for insulin, which is a life-saving drug. Tell us, how much money has that been costing us? I mean, it was just this special interest rider that was slipped into the Medicare Part D program by then Chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Billy Townsend, more than a decade ago. But it's meant really billions of dollars lost to the American people through the Medicare program, because the big pharma companies could just dictate the prices, unlike what's going on all over the world, right?
That you're exactly right. Before I talk about that, though, I want to really double down on your insulin. Thank you very much for putting that $35 cap on insulin copays for people on Medicare. Now, it wasn't able to be extended to everybody because of Republican opposition. Very sad. But thanks to your former colleague, Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, one of my all-time heroes, Maryland has that. So Maryland has a $35 cap on what people on insurance outside of Medicare pay for insulin. So that's great. And but what you're saying is absolutely right. In 2003, George Bush enacted this prescription drug program in Medicare, which was a giveaway to the drug corporations, because then Representative Billy Townsend put in this provision that Medicare could negotiate with the drug corporations like the VA does and like all the other country does. It's no coincidence that a year later, he took a job as the head of Big Pharma. Did not conflict with his interest at all. But we all suffered billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year over what Medicare should be paying, which has been a drain on the federal budget and a drain on the budgets of individual Medicare recipients. So this is really historic. And I just want to thank especially President Joe Biden for being the first president ever to stand up to Big Pharma and beat them. And now we will build on that to make drug prices more affordable for everyone.
Great. And, we're not interfering in any way with research and development and stimulating the creation and discovery of new drugs. We're just building more of a market principle back into the whole thing. I mean, it's not a free market if the government can't negotiate with the big companies.
That's right, Congressman. And first of all, I want to say drugs don't work if people can't afford them. Drugs don't work if people can't afford them. So you can have all the great drugs in the world, but if people can't afford them, it's not saving lives. But in addition, our evidence shows that the drug corporations spend a lot more on advertising than they do on research. The United States and New Zealand are the only countries that allow the drug corporations to advertise on TV, and everybody who turns on TV knows they do it all the time. They can cut some of those ads and be able to afford all the research they want to do and make drugs more affordable. And finally, a lot of that research is paid by the federal government. So your wonderful colleague in the Senate, Chris Van Hollen, has put in a bill called the We Paid Act, which we hope gets enacted someday, which says to the drug corporations, if your research is paid for by the federal government, you can't charge whatever you want and be paid twice. You have to go through a board to figure out what you could pay. So this is not going to reduce research and innovation. This is going to make drugs more affordable for people.
Well, look, Vinny, you are such a great public servant on everything from the smoking issue, where you've been instrumental, to gun violence, and now to the big breakthroughs we're having now nationally and in Maryland on healthcare. You're also a great leader for Shakespeare for kids, and tell wonderful stories to children based on the plays. And I just want to salute you as our local hero this week. This is our chance to celebrate the great Vinny DeMarco, everybody. So have a great week, Vinny, and thank you for everything you do.
And I love your book, Congressman. Your book, Unthinkable, is one of the best books I've ever read, and I love listening to you read it. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, man.